So we're coming near the end of the first series of the podcast, and I've talked to lots of fascinating women and had an emphasis. I wanted to talk to some older women, get the older generation perspective on things, and then I realised I hadn't talked to somebody from younger generations. So now we have a Generation Z, who is my niece, Rosa Gildea. Hello.
Hello. Lovely to be here.
Thank you, Rosa, for doing this. So, tell us a bit about you, Rosa.
Well, so I am 22. I'm Anne's niece, so I have to acknowledge that maybe I have less to say about myself than some of the older women on the podcast who have lived longer lives. But I'm 22. I just finished my bachelor degree in politics, philosophy and economics. And I studied in the Netherlands, so I was in Utrecht.
And you're still in Utrecht?
I'm still in Utrecht now. So for the first year I lived in Amsterdam and commuted, so I've had time in Amsterdam and Utrecht, and yeah, no, I'm back visiting in Dublin. I was at a concert recently, so yeah, that's, I guess, a bit about me.
And so you moved on your own to Amsterdam when you were 18?
Yeah, I was 18. I was about to turn 19. So, but I was 18, fresh out of secondary school.
How did you find that, moving to Amsterdam?
It was quite intense, actually. I think the thing is, I wish I could go back and tell 18, 19-year-old Rosa that it is supposed to be hard. It makes sense that this is very hard and scary, because I think at the time I sort of felt like I just had to keep chugging on with it and like got frustrated when I was overwhelmed or something.
Yeah. But it is overwhelming.
It was a big change.
And you were living off the dam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You were right in the touristic centre. It was a friend of friends who had...
This is the thing that made it so interesting was my first year was staying in I was subletting a friend's apartment. Yeah. And I was so lucky because I got a cheap apartment in the centre of Amsterdam. Accommodation is hard to find in the Netherlands, not as much as Dublin, but the thing is, it was right in the middle of the red light district, which again is a cool experience.
It was baptism of fire. Welcome to the adult world.
It was so like being thrown in the deep end. And I remember when I first moved with my mum, walking around in the night, it's this big bustling city filled with tourists, and her being like, let's go see the red lights, let's go. Yeah. I'm going to show you everything. And like, you know, it was sort of just, it felt like full throttle the deep end, because I wasn't living in a student accommodation. I was far away from most of my peers. I was in Amsterdam in like the tourist centre, and I didn't know anyone. And I remember one of the first days I was there, immediately after my mum, she came with me, she left. I just got really sick. And I was sick alone for my first time in my life in this apartment in the centre, and I put on these baggy clothes and slides to go and get milk. I just needed milk from Albert Heijn. And I put the one into Google Maps. It took me through a shortcut, like right through the red light, like through the windows, and there was British men everywhere, and I was just like fevering, like, what is this? It was a very intense experience, but I think it was also very good growth.
I have to ask you, I know that's not what the podcast is about, but I have to ask you, what was your take on the red light?
Okay, honestly, I know this. We could talk about this like all day, because I think the red light district and sex work in general is so, for me as someone who is very interested in philosophy, one of those issues where I really find it hard to have a concrete take, because I understand on one hand that making it legal can provide a lot of protections for the women, and so they have, you know, security, they have safety buttons, they aren't sort of demoralized on the street. But at the same time, as a feminist, I think there's something that was, and also this is very new to me, right? This is, we're from the country of shame, Catholic shame. So to see women in the windows sort of advertising themselves, like, pick me, there is something about that is so innately uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. And it's not, I don't judge the women themselves, because I don't know where they came from. I don't know their position. I think a lot of them are Eastern European. I don't think a lot of them are Dutch.
I know years ago there's a huge trafficking piece there. No matter how much they go, empowerment, it never is. Women come out as I would hold it, a woman's body is not a place to work. I get very upset about it. I feel really passionate. Prostitution is vile.
It makes me very sad, and I found it quite off-putting in some ways. And I remember walking to, like, I was getting the train to school one morning, getting very early, walking through the streets at like 7 a.m. and seeing a woman poking her head out the window with a big joint, like in the morning, getting ready for her work day. And again, for me, it's like I would never judge a woman who wants to do this. I would just question
the circumstances of that women are economically so disempowered that they literally have to sell their body, and it's damaging psychologically and physically, and there is always an element of abuse. Always, you just have to walk.
You can't avoid it. You can't avoid the
pick up the vibe and see the truth of clients and the truth of what you're engaging with.
And it's men ogling as they walk past, staring at you. Yes, we could. Like,
but
it's an upsetting topic for me.
It is an upsetting,
but I don't want to.
It's like, you go to college and you expect to grow up, but that's what I remember about you going there, because it was his apartment.
Yes,
and
which I was so lucky to have.
It was so lucky, but it was right there in the centre of, okay, now you're leaving the comfort, she's leaving home.
She's leaving home.
Do you remember
we sang that song, we played that song before.
I played it in the car on the way to the airport over and over. I wanted to make it this
big amount. Well, I love that song, so it did hit me hard.
Yeah, so we were playing She's Leaving Home, and it's all that wistful thing, and then you're living
bam in the centre.
On your own. 18 going on 19, they're really seeing...
That was, I just turned 18.
A power dynamic about life. You see it in the rawest way. And...
I was just turning 19. And it was more so just, like... It felt like a bigger world. And, Amsterdam, it's known for this vice city. I mean, it's... very exciting.
The history of that is that Amsterdam was a port for centuries, so it has got this, and it was an old capitalistic centre, old wealth, and it was always very international. Underneath all that internationalism, all feeding from the port, it's Calvinistic.
Oh, very much so.
It's actually what people don't realise. I mean, I remember going out with someone whose mother lived just a bit outside Amsterdam, and you went there on a Sunday, every shop shut, nobody did any work, it was really strict.
You know what's so funny is since moving there, especially with the introduction in uni, there was a lot about Dutch culture. The amount of times I heard the Protestant work ethic. We had a course at the beginning in first year of global economic history, like major debates in global economic history, and the amount of the Protestant work ethic, it's a big cultural part of how the Netherlands was built up.
I really like that about the Netherlands. They're very hard workers. They're very strict. And
they have a good work-life balance.
Yeah, and they do. They also have
really
that.
do.
And aesthetically, I like the way they live. And they also had this thing I really liked, which was no ostentation. You could have super wealthy people and generational wealth. You wouldn't know.
It's not cool to be flashy. It's so not cool to be flashy. Yeah. No, it's very this phrase "doe normaal."
Yeah.
Do normal. Be normal.
Oh,
it's
that's
great.
It's do normal, which is be crazy. That's normal enough. Or how does the saying go?
I don't.
It's something.
The way
like
I don't know the full
used to
phrase.
Say that all the time.
Una would be a better representation, and that's also like. Because my mum and my aunt Una met in Amsterdam, I think that was part of the reason I kind of was intrigued to go. Yeah. But I do think it's very different now than when they were there.
Oh, yeah.
Like when my mum came with me to Amsterdam, she looked at the canals and went, God, they really cleaned it up.
Oh, yeah. I remember it being really... Una moved there and it was... would have been early 90s, early 90s. Your mum's from South Africa, and that's where they met, and then that's how your mother met my brother.
Yeah,
and so that's a link. Yeah, and it was. I used to say, because I lived in London at the time, that going to Holland, it was almost communistic, because it was all rent controlled, the flats were controlled. You might own an apartment block, but it was controlled by the government. But in a way, there was a lovely lo-fi thing about it, and everybody going around on their bikes, I knew a lot of artists, when I visited through Una, and it was a kind of it was a nice relaxed pace of life. Now it seems to have gone like everywhere else.
Well, this is the thing that, like, I do think that there is a new push of hustle and bustle, and maybe this is amongst my generation more so, but like fear about making enough money to survive, and like also the course I did was very intense, and people had this mindset of like, what's your 5-year plan, what internships do you have? And I was like, oh, I just moved here. I just got into this course. I thought that was like half the work.
I have to say that about the course you did. A super competitive course to get into, so well done you for getting in there. Because PPE in like in Oxford and places like this, I knew somebody when I moved to London first. I went out with somebody who was studying PPE in Oxford. Wow. I remember going down there, well, they say up to Oxford, and walking around and listening to about his course and going, this is what I wanted to study. It seems like the most brilliant course because it's a foundation in Western thought and political structures in a way.
Yeah, I mean, of course a lot of my friends discuss this, like it was naive to think that we would get deep into each area like, you know, it's not like we have a bachelor's in political science, economics and philosophy. You can only learn so much, but I'm so glad I did this course, despite the fact that, you know, I found it very difficult to adjust from going from like the leaving cert to this was a big jump.
Because it was a big international group of people.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of an honours program, so honours, yeah. But it was in the Netherlands, numerous fixes. So
I love that. That's so Irish.
I know. The notions. I can't say that with like.
I know, but
seriousness.
One thing I was happy that you were going to Holland was that you were always so polite to everybody and almost on the verge of becoming a total people pleaser. I thought Holland is going to snap you out of that because they're so direct. So you say what you want, you say what you mean, and you know you have clarity and no faffing around.
That's so true, and I actually do think it was so good for me. One, to push I've always, like I will say, I've always liked a bit of a challenge, or I've liked to do lots of different things. So moving abroad was good for me, I think, even though it was hard to push myself, but also to the Netherlands, like you say, they are so direct. And I remember having this feeling in my first year of like, why does everybody hate me? Like, did I do something wrong? And it's adjusting, because you know how it is in Ireland. Like, I come back to Ireland and I do miss this of people.
Well, you had that in your first year.
Not in my course. I just mean like shop owners, like people in the streets, like people I would chat to. I was like, does everyone in the supermarket hate my fucking guts?
I know, because this is what I love about Ireland, and this is why I love living here.
Yeah.
But you have to get off the island and get experience.
You need to get that experience.
You have to get that experience.
Also, when I readjusted and I realised... Sorry, with the warmth, I want to talk about this, but... obviously, after a while, I realised they don't hate me. This is just, once you adjust to their way of communication, it's much easier to handle. But the warmth in Ireland is something that I really miss. And I find it very difficult to explain to my friends of like, like, for example, if we're on a night out in Utrecht and a random Dutch frat bro comes up to me and starts to yap, a lot of my friends will kind of immediately be like, he's a creepy guy and we don't want anything to do with him. And to be honest, I think I can be a bit naive sometimes, but I do have this sentiment of like, I like to talk to random people on a night out because I think that's very Irish. To just bump into someone and go, oh, sorry there, have a great, enjoy your pint. Like, oh, so where are you from? You know, it's... Yeah.
Whereas your Dutch or other friends would be like...
Oh, my Eastern European friends are like, this is like...
Oh, really?
They're looking at me like... Because for a lot of Eastern European people, they're gorgeous, friendly, lovely people. But if a stranger comes up to you and says, how are you doing? It's suspicious. It's like, what do you want from me, you know?
We were talking to Betta about that, and it comes from that communist fear.
It really does, of being outed. Yeah. I've heard this because I went to Lithuania with the band. Sorry, I'm really jumping around topics now.
No, this is great because I'm getting a feeling of your life and what your generation feel in the world. Go on,
So I do a band. It's a little bit, not on a hiatus, but we're just not meeting as much. But we did a few shows last year and we were able to organise 2 shows in Lithuania. And the first night in Vilnius is this really cool like underground punk venue. It was an amazing experience. But as we were setting up for sound check, obviously I'm the singer, so I don't really have anything to set up. Yeah. And I'm waiting. They got their instruments together. And I was standing at this table next to 2 people working the venue, and I was just like, oh, so how are you guys? Like, what are you doing? What do you do here? And they looked so freaked out by me. They were like, and even this, they made us food at the venue, and I went up, this is how my mother raised me. I went up to the kitchen and I was like, thank you so much. Do you need help cleaning the dishes or anything? Oh, it's gorgeous. She looked at me like, no. I was so nervous, and I thought, again, I was like, am I a freak? But then as the night went on, and then people started to drink more, people opened up so much. And if you have to sit with people for a minute and kind of make them comfortable with your presence, and then as they were drinking more, everyone was so friendly and open. But
that is it.
It's this Irish thing of like, just if you're in a line for a shop and it's taking too long, the old one in front of you will turn around and be like, oh Jesus, I'll be here all day, you know? Yeah. People make commentary to you. I don't know. Yeah.
And I love that about here. It was something I was going to ask you earlier. Oh yeah, you're in it. So yes, you're in a band.
Yeah.
I was going to say about the sound check. You're going as they were setting up. One thing you always have to be strident about, or be strong about. I think when it comes to the sound check, is sometimes in bands they sound check everything else and then the vocal.
Yeah.
Everything. If there's a vocal in a band, everything should be sound checked in relation to the vocal, and the vocal should be first if you're fronting it. That's what I think.
That makes sense. Well, our music as well, like, is... Well, I suppose this sort of relates. I saw My Bloody Valentine last night, which is one of my favourite bands, and I absolutely love them. But so I have always loved music, and I've always loved singing ever since I was very young. Yeah. Singing is a big part of what I enjoy, and even though I did this politics degree, I think there's a very artsy side of me that I do love, and I'm not the most talented in other instruments, but I played the violin for years, which I still miss, and played like the bass, learning myself. So I've dabbled in the keys and stuff.
You have a violin with you, don't you? Yeah.
But I just didn't bring it to Utrecht. But I have dabbled in it, like the keys and the bass, and it's always been something I love. But like My Bloody Valentine, this is the music I play with. Our band is called Tar. We have one song on Spotify.
You changed the name.
So yes, we have changed the name, by the way. Yeah. Which is a silly story, but we were called Borrowed Freedom, which I personally did not like. Yeah. And the story is so funny because the bassist in our band, lovely guy, I don't even know how to explain this. He just has he loves horses. Yeah. And the whole thing was like, when you ride a horse, you're borrowing freedom. Which is...
Where's he from?
He's from Bulgaria.
Yeah,
lovely
so
guy.
English is his second language.
He speaks great English, but like...
It's just borrowed free... Yeah, it's a bit clunky.
But some people love the name. We had one rehearsal and we were sitting outside afterwards and we were thinking of a new name, and we had a song called Tar, one of my favourite songs. Yeah. Which is named after the film Tar, because our guitarist loves film, and that is a great film, by the way. But... Long story short, we named ourselves after one of our songs after a film. So we're called Tar now, and the music, I've never sang anything like this before because I would be quite into a different arrays of music. I like alternative music, I like post-rock, I love shoegaze, but I've always sang more contemporary, sort of jazzy, poppy, indie, whatever. So it was... it was the first time I was doing sort of alternative singing, and I had to kind of shout some lines and scream.
And would they give you the melody line, or did you have to make up the melody line?
I made up the melody line, so...
And did you write the lyrics too?
Well, Victor, the bassist, is an amazing writer, so he had written a lot of the lyrics before I joined.
And where's Victor from?
He's Bulgarian.
Bulgarian too. Is it a Bulgarian band?
No, he's the guy that owns it.
Oh, right, okay.
And then the guitarist is... from Poland, and then the drummer is Cypriot Russian, and then we have the second guitarist, Sean, who's Irish.
And you?
Yes.
Oh, what a brilliant
So it's a fun little gang.
Yeah.
And basically, like, I had the first meeting with them, and they just played one of their songs, and I made a melody line up on the spot for it. So I wrote a few of the lyrics with Victor now, which has been really fun, and I enjoyed it.
And then when it comes to deciding on the vocal style, did you just listen to it, and how did you find did they know what vocal style they wanted, or?
See, I think it was more of like a process thing of like, the first rehearsal, we did one song where they were like, do what you think feels right. They gave me a lot of freedom with the melody lines, and of course, like very talented, eccentric musicians. So they will be like, no, we don't like that. They're very openly like, try something like this, you know? So I'd say the bassist, Victor, is more involved with the singing than the rest, whereas Kuba and Ivan are sort of just like, yep, we have a singer, whereas Victor really like was focused on style with me, so we work together a lot.
Oh, and did you
really
work out a different style of singing?
So, yeah, it was, I think it's funny because if I listen back to how I was first singing with them, I was still stuck in this mindset of doing this very perfect, like,
can you just,
ballady.
like, just give me an example, just sing a note, just sing.
Well, I suppose it would be more like, yeah, like sleeping, da, da, da. Yeah, like that kind
and
of.
now, how would you?
Well,
do that?
I would do some of it like that, but there's some parts where I'm doing spoken word, and I would do it a bit too like, da 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 da, da, and I had to really like try and become a character or something, and really get into it of losing myself of like talking in a more creepy way or shouting or getting angry.
That is brilliant. So you're
so
like
new for me.
manifesting the song.
Yeah,
you know, and
it was very new for
reading
me.
about singers that they say some singers can take, you know, it can take a whole year or years to really get a handle on a song and find the way that you are going to deliver it. And that's the whole mystery of being a brilliant performer, isn't it?
It's exciting because it was a very new challenge for me, and I love the music they make, but it was difficult for me to adjust to that style of musicality because I'd never done that before.
Yeah, and then the
like
whole,
screaming and stuff.
The whole thing of having persona is so important on stage. So you're kind of protected.
But you are. Well, I'd love to hear about your take on this, which I know music, and you do a lot of music, but comedy as well, the persona you take on. But for me, as you were saying, like the whole, I am a bit of a people pleaser by nature, or just I have a history of not being very good at sort of standing up for myself as a young person. So this was also, I think, quite nice for me of having to make a persona who is angry and badass and like broody, moody, not this like.
And do you find
I'm
it good to work with guys too? Because I think guys can have a great no-nonsense way of communicating. Whereas I've worked endlessly with women, and I absolutely adore women, and I love the creative dynamic that's created. But communication-wise, it can be complex with women. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know
but these
what
are
I mean?
also. I used to joke with my friends when I first joined the band. It's like it's just me and my Eastern European guys, and they'd just be like, "No, bad. That's not, like, of course not."
Yeah.
But they would say it when they didn't.
What's the difference working with a bloke and I'm sure it's...
The directness. I've noticed.
Yeah, which I also have female friends that are direct now, but in Ireland I think it's
in Ireland
unlikely.
it's more complicated.
Lots of
I think guys can be very direct and then get angry and let it go, but that's also a cultural thing. I think in Ireland,
I think it's very cultural,
and maybe it was me too. This feeling of guilt if you were angry about something, whereas you have to just express and then move on.
Well, this is such a thing for me as well, of a healthy relationship with anger, because I think for a long time I just had this blanket idea that anger is a bad emotion that you shouldn't feel. And I wonder, I think that comes from many areas, but also being an Irish woman and this shame, and I'm trying to be this very tolerable or acceptable little.
Well, there's two things. One, the Irish
lady.
piece, but I think for the classic female thing was always to be amenable and nice.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think, do you feel that even carried through into your generation?
I would say so. I mean, of course, you can't speak for everyone, but I do feel this, and I remember growing older and having someone say to me, like, if you don't let yourself feel anger, it just becomes depression.
Yes,
and I was like, oh. So it's realizing that anger is actually very healthy and normal, and it's your body telling you, this is actually not right, this doesn't feel right. But it's about how you express that anger, of course. That is the real make or break for your character. So you can be very angry and still very fair and not ruin anyone's day or something.
Just as you're saying that, I'm just thinking that's why it's so brilliant to be doing bands too. It just teaches you so much about life and negotiating things and working out the process of things.
Yeah, I think it was also working with people in that way. Like, I am a very disorganized person, so I really, really am, and I think possibly part of the guilty gene pool, but it is something that I have been trying to get a hold of, but I just have these moments where I'm, I have problems with being on time, or I have problems with kind of remembering dates or fitting in things. And so there was once or twice where like I was really late for like important things. Not really late, like I made it in time, but I was late, and I had to deal with like, when you're in a band, it's a very specific type of dynamic where you're a group, you're relying on each other. So you can get into arguments sometimes, you can get into disagreements about which direction you're taking something, how you communicate. But I think it's a nice lesson in working with people in that way. And I also, as I was there for longer, I became more comfortable giving my ideas or input and saying, I'd like to write some lyrics as well. Yeah. I think that was nice for me.
And so you were doing the band, and then you were also finishing your degree. That must have been incredibly intense.
Yeah, that was really intense.
What did you do your thesis on?
So my thesis, I feel like it's... I feel sorry for anyone when they ask me this question, because it's such a long explanation, because it's so deep in different topics. But basically, I was really interested in the Green Revolution, which is when the world basically industrialized agriculture. Yeah. And through a lot of research into this, I discovered this thing of food sovereignty, which is basically like a alternate to food security. Yeah. And one of this term became popular by this transnational social group, La Via Campesina, which means the peasant way. And it originated in South America, but now they represent, I think, 81 different countries with grassroots movements. So food sovereignty is essentially this idea of, it's not just about ensuring like food at an adequate level and in like an ethnically appropriate level for all people, but also looking at the producers of food and how they are treated, and are they able to make decisions about food systems from the bottom up? Are they able to use agroecological methods? So a lot of food sovereignty is also about the environment, and how using a lot of pesticides and fertilizers and technology is not only bad for the environment, but also traps farmers in debt cycles, basically, because it's completely monopolized. So, we have like Monsanto and the GMO seeds, and I had to keep...
Kills the soil.
It destroys the soil, and then you need to get fertilizers, which then also kills the soil, so you need to keep doing it. And pesticides, then they kill the soil, blah, blah, blah. So I also have to keep, like, when people ask me about their thesis, it's like, I'm not anti-GMO because it's not natural, but because it's completely monopolized, it's not good for the environment, and it's putting a plaster on like a much bigger issue.
So this is called food sovereignty, and is the emphasis mainly on, say, in the major economies in their food policy, food security, and not this food sovereignty?
Yes.
Or is this food sovereignty taken over, ideally, that it would supersede the idea of food security, which is food security is about food supply? Is that it?
Yeah. So food sovereignty is, of course, like it's not that popular. It's not being imposed. It's been vaguely implemented and proposed in certain Latin American countries, but it's difficult to assess how successful it was, because it wasn't completely... you can't do it in a capitalist system, basically.
You know why uber capitalism is winning.
So you can't really envision what it would really look like in a post-capitalist society. Yeah. Because you're still competing with the rest of the global market.
I think economically in the world, a big thing, would you say, I mean, did you get a sense of this at all, or what would your take be on it, that we just have to address the dysfunction in uber capitalism, which is one as the economic system of the world. There's many great things about capitalism: the autonomy it gives, the fact that if you work hard, you can see the fruit.
Yeah, but do we really believe in meritocracy anymore? That if you work hard, you can see the fruit? I mean, you can work hard, but a lot of people.
I know. I see that. Yeah.
You need to have
inequality.
Losers.
It's going into a feudal.
It's also. It's just like the one of the. I mean, the invisible hand, like Adam Smith. One of the biggest things that capitalism is supposed to provide is competition, which is not happening, because we have like monopolized almost everything. And even, it was kind of scary for me, because with what's happening in Palestine at the moment, I was looking at a lot of boycott lists of products not to buy. And this is fucking terrifying because you actually just see that everything is owned by like the same 3 or 4 companies.
Yes.
Your snacks, your food, your drinks, your toothpaste, your face wash. It's Procter and Gamble, like most of that. And, you know, antitrust laws in the States are not being enforced. They're not being enforced in a lot of the world. So this just,
you were probably super aware of all this when you went to study PPE in Utrecht, because obviously that's why you had an interest in it, because you're interested in global systems.
Yeah.
How do you process all this information when you learn about it systematically? Do you go, oh my God, what can we do? Where's your head on it all now?
So I think a lot of my friends had this experience because I was not exactly sure what to expect from PPE, especially the politics part, right? So what I did in secondary school was, what's the course called? Politics and Society, which is basically, I think, a lot of political philosophy. You're looking at different thinkers on how they think the world should work. So when I started PPE, and a lot of my friends would say the same, there was this sentiment of like, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to get educated so I can save the world.
Which is beautiful.
But it died very quickly. And now I'm like, maybe I can do one good thing before I die.
And then you want to have babies, and the good thing is get a mortgage and look after Baba.
Yeah, basically. So there is this like underlying sentiment of like, oh, the world is fucked. And then a lot of what you learn is that academia is like, of course not always, but it is sometimes this White Castle like typologies upon typologies of how we perceive very complex phenomenons through simplified lenses, which you have to do to understand it. I know that we have to make these typologies so we can even discuss these things, but it can feel frustrating to be looking at the rise of populism, of fascism around the world, and to be like, yes, but the policy window arises. So like, when can a policy go through? And it's important.
What is the policy window?
Let's see if I can explain this well. But it's more so that you're learning like the cycles of how policies get through bureaucracy. So there's like a problem arises and then a window opens is a very simplified version of this, by the way. And then the actors are in the right place to like push it through the window. It's if something gets enough public attention, it's easier to get through the policy window. But it's important to learn this stuff. Like governance studies are very important, and I probably explained that really poorly, but there is something about like, but everything's burning around us right now. So like,
but it's good to know the structures of the thought around those ideas.
It is.
But in life, then you go out into the world. Every situation is infinitely more complex and not following the straight structures. And we are in a particular very challenging moment. I'm very interested to know how you feel about it and your friends. With the global, with the environmental crisis, and with AI, with the super monopolization of the world, and with this capitalist moment, like there's really big things coming down the tracks that are collapsing the structure of reality as you know it. How do you process that? How do you think about your future? How do your friends and you think about the future? Or
Which bit of the question you wanted to answer first?
I think it's, darling, it's
I got the vibe. I feel like my answer would encompass all of it anyway.
Yeah, because I think that it is a huge monolith of all those problems, and then you have your day-to-day life,
then you have to go home and do laundry and make dinner.
I think that is the way life works. You know,
Yeah, well, it's also. There is something, I wouldn't say difficult, but I notice that I did dedicate the last 3 years of my life being a politics student who's interested in what's happening in the world around me. And sometimes I get not jealous, but slightly jealous actually of my friends who are just studying completely different things that are not related to politics or the environment, because it's not that they're not aware, but there's just people I know that are very smart, intelligent people who are just not so locked into the news, and I think they're living better existences than I am because they're not aware of how fucked things are. And so I even had the climate crisis. First of all, this is something that is, I think, very specific to our generation is we had the Friday for Future marches when I was in 4th year. I remember being like 16 when this really kicked off, and there was such a feeling of like hope and like Greta Thunberg, we're going to fight this, we're standing up, we're going to the street. And I think it's fucking insane that I was 16 years old, talking to other girls in my class, having conversations like, so do you think it's ethical to have children? Because the world is going to burn. Like, at 16 years of age. That's so scary.
That's when you have those conversations. I had them at 16 as well.
For other reasons.
I know by the time
my mother said, don't you come home here and tell me you got someone pregnant.
And he did.
No, I didn't.
I know.
She found out. She said, who's that? Oh, it's your grandson.
But I do think, like, so this, in regard to the climate, like, for me, it's not even about, it's not a question. Things are very much bad, very bad. They've gone, any changes we make now will never completely reverse climate change. Yeah. And like one of my good friends from secondary school is actually studying environmental sciences, and she's basically like, we're cooked.
Tell me about your friend.
Well, basically, this is, again, I'm very vague, I'm not an expert on this, but she said they had a chart of what changes in each kind of like sector of the environment would happen past a certain degree rise. And she said that many areas and biomes and particularities of the environment have gone beyond the point where the scientists can actually predict what will happen at the current state we're at. So the climate is one thing. AI is absolutely terrifying. I think it's...
What do you think about that?
Well, you know what's really messed up as well is that like a lot of my friends, and I will use ChatGPT for school sometimes, not for doing the work for me, but say...
As a search engine, it's fab.
As a search engine, you have to check everything, of course.
Oh, I know
you have to check everything.
But if you're looking for a source for something, and you went, I read that somewhere, very tight, specific.
Yeah, it's
things,
really quick.
But not for critical thinking.
No. Not for critical thinking. And people use it for that. What I would use it for is like, can you give me feedback on this paragraph? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah.
So what I do is for editing and for, sometimes I get into the flow of writing and I kind of like skip sentences and I get a bit messy and my train of thought needs to be like refined. I need someone to, keep me in line.
Listen, that's your process.
But it's also...
they say about writing.
Is your process melting glaciers as we speak? Is the question, Rosa.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's terrible for the environment, but so is Googling, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but can I just say about writing, what they say is don't get it right, get it down. That's what you're doing. You're getting it down and then you're refining.
So what if a couple of penguins die?
So, you were saying about the environmental impact of using chat.
It is bad. I mean, I do my...
GPT. I always get the letters wrong.
GPT. Wait, ChatGPT, yeah.
GPT.
Now it sounds weird.
GTP.
And
no, I know it too well now.
What does it stand for?
Oh, I have no idea.
What does it
clue.
No, what does it stand for?
General processing text or something. Technology. That wasn't too hard.
I because I'm a bit like you. I like the idea of things, so don't go into the specifics. I haven't called it ChatGPT. I just say, I just did that search on ChatGPT.
But I do this all the time with like
over it because
names of songs or like albums of artists I really like. Where one of my friends was like, "Are you dyslexic?" Because I'm not, by the way. I think I would know by now, but it's just because my brain kind of skips over stuff.
But I'm the same. But it's just about
because I'm listening to the
firing
song,
and I get really excited about ideas. So you want to capture that excitement, get the stuff down, then you can refine it. I think the important thing is not to pathologize your mental processes. Yeah. Every human being is different, and there's a real strand of pathologization.
By the way, it means generative pre-trained transformer.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Or as you
pre-train
that thing.
Yeah.
GPT.
Okay,
I just wanted
Sorry, can I just focus you guys?
Yeah.
You started talking about the environmental damage caused by GPT and Google and like the internet.
You know,
you
introduced
the natural
that.
flow of the conversation.
No, you went. Okay.
Oh no,
I
want to hear more about that though.
No, but this is. But can I say?
It's so funny to retrace how you got to one. Sorry.
Okay, I remember when I left college, and I did it. It was kind of general. It was communication studies, but I left really depressed about the world and the whole. That felt it was controlled by bigger powers than any of us, and what power did we have? But I realised the way. I think the way to get on is to focus very tight. This doesn't sound like being a good citizen.
No, go on.
But to focus very tightly on what it is you need to do to look after you. One, look after yourself. Look after your, not to have your values, not to the detriment of anybody else, but make sure you have food, shelter, you've looked after, and anybody that you care for is looked after.
Yeah.
And make sure you have those resources, and then spread out, and then. From there, and Betta, who we talked to last week, was saying the way she feels about it, because she's involved in environmental bits. She was saying community is so important.
Yeah,
there's these important human things, but I just do feel a bit sorry for your generation, because if you just tune into the news at all, it's so entirely negative. About
especially
things.
In the States right now, of like. Just the Epstein file. Trump is, he's a fascist, and he wants to run for a third term, which is obviously non-constitutional.
I hope that won't happen. I hope that the systems will kick into place, and I think that the Republicans too.
I have a feeling Trump's going to trip over his catheter bag on the way down.
He's going to die soon, but is JD Vance much better? Anyway.
But I don't think. I think, yeah.
Sorry, I'm jumping into a specific
I know,
point
we don't
again.
need that. But I think that what happened in America is that you had a very strong capitalistic system, and then the moral piece just fell out of it. In the 70s or 80s. There was always a sense of a moral obligation to the wider society, and the idea of moral obligation left. I think it's also... So, for me, I completely agree about community, and I completely agree with having your basic needs met, because I think also there is no point joining the revolution if you are you're suffering yourself. You're not going to do anything, you're not going to help anyone. And there's a lot of, for example, I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since I was 9 years old. That's a moral value I hold, and it's easy for me because I'm living a very privileged position that I can do that. The Netherlands has a lot of options for that. I have those choices, but I think acting ethically does become very difficult. So I try to buy mostly second-hand clothes. I don't like to engage in fast fashion that much, but every now and then you just do. And it becomes very difficult to live with an ethical mindset when, one, it's society, it's a consumptogenic society that's constantly advertising at you. Say that word again. Consumptogenic.
This is not even a real word. I got this from papers in my thesis. Consumptogenic.
I like it. What does it mean? It's
basically just consumerism is so core to post-capitalist society.
Oh, it's centric, consumptogenic.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, okay.
I read the quote in one of the papers for my thesis. I remember it was something along the lines of, we're constantly being told we need to scale down, eat less, consume less, even though that is the antithesis of what we've been told for the last 50, 60 years is buy more, buy more.
Well, it still drives the whole economy, and even the whole thing, when you hear reports on the economy, is about grew. You can't grow ad infinitum. And
it's built on a lot of plastic crap that people don't need. That's how the...
Yeah.
And so for me, it's I think one thing I had to do was hold myself to a less intense standard, because I do think I make pretty ethical choices. I don't think I'm kind to people. I try and not, I don't eat meat.
You've always been like that.
It's
since you were a little child, you were like that. You were very considerate and just hyper.
That's nice to hear.
Sorry.
Oh.
No, but you were just always such a lovely child. You such a lovely energy about you.
That's so lovely.
So you always cared. How do you see yourself earning a living or job you'd like to do? Where are you picturing that?
So this is something that's
you're working in a bar at the moment.
Yeah, so right now I work in a bar. Shout out Walden Bar Utrecht.
Do you enjoy that?
I do. It's gotten I think things are very organised at the minute. We have a new manager coming in who's so lovely, and it's a really nice student job. I think the only thing is that it's late hours and it can be intense sometimes when it's really busy. So there is that thing of if I have to finish work at 3 a.m, of course my sleep schedule is going to be a bit messed up, but I really like it.
You're paying your rent.
Yeah.
It's
a good job, and I don't want a big girl job right now.
You are working in the world and paying your way, and that
just
is,
now. Yeah.
I mean, that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, you are independent, you are out there in the world doing that. Fair play you.
So as far as I would like to do, so this year I'm just taking off, and I would like to do a master's. But what's very interesting to me now is looking at the future and trying to be a bit strategic, because there's many things that I'm interested in. I could do a politics master's and be very happy there and learn a lot, but I feel like in terms of actual job direction, I'm quite lost. And there's so many things that excite me, but even a lot of people in my course would be really I want to work for the UN or the EU. And the UN is being...
people were going in with the 5-year plan.
Yeah, well, there's very motivated people. And I would have always thought that's too big for me. But the UN is kind of being gutted now financially.
Has it?
Well, just from the US pulling in loads of funding. So even for all of these very intelligent people in my program, the prospects in terms of these international lefty jobs are kind of decreasing too. So one thing that I'm quite interested in now is I did a minor in data science, and I find data science and statistics quite interesting. I think it's quite a powerful thing to understand in the world of politics, to not just see a percentage on a paper, but to look at the study and go, okay, but what was their confidence intervals, or what were their, what were the actual full model, and how did they make the model?
Stats, in other words, statistics.
I don't even know what I'm saying, but
no, but
it's
that's
a good
amazing.
thing to. Yeah. I think it's a very powerful thing to understand, and this is something that I've kind of thought about as okay, I see this as, for once in my life, a real path that is semi, not niche, but it's something I could really have a leg up in. Is that. And this is not to sound rude, but I've talked to a few people about this, and many people in the data science statistic world are much, much more intelligent than me in terms of statistics. They know maths much better than I do, but often they're not good communicators.
Oh, yeah.
And they are only getting a degree in the maths statistics side, whereas I have the politics side. And so what could be a very interesting path for me is being that bridge between, I understand the models, I understand what the numbers mean, because 47 doesn't mean anything to the people taking the information and writing the report. So I think it's nice that I have theory and statistics. I'm not the only one to have this, but I do think it's a more niche.
And it's niche, and it's clear, and then the other big question about anything you want to do, but do you enjoy it? Yeah,
and I do enjoy it. I think it's very satisfying. But if I could marry it with political theory and dream case scenario, a think tank where I write reports on current affairs and I do data for it, that's great, because I get to marry them both.
So call out now on the podcast if there's anything.
Please hire me. Yeah. So that's why I might do a master's in just data science, and then I can. But
where did you do that? In Holland?
I see. That's the thing. They have a pretty good one in Utrecht University. They just have normal data science. 1-year master's is pretty good, and then I have a friend who's doing policy and complex systems in Amsterdam, which is less data science, more Python math, but it looks quite interesting.
More what math?
Python and math. What? Python is a coding software. Yeah. They're all named after.
I thought it was a snake.
It was a snake.
I thought that sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
so
no, it's not that interesting.
And policy. I want to do
policy.
donkeys, economics.
You know what's so funny though? Sorry to interrupt, but this is my follow-up is I've always loved animals.
Yeah.
And I think one day it's the whole if I can make this data science thing work and politics, it would be so brilliant. But one day I'd love to just take like a complete 180 and just like go and study animals for a bit or something, like do something like that.
Yeah.
I think in my lifetime I would love to just volunteer with some like animal somewhere in a rescue centre. It's a very childhood dreamy, but I've sometimes when I'm really like, you know, the course was feeling really difficult, I was like, damn, I wish I just did zoology and I could just watch birds for the rest of my life.
It sounds like you've really just pushed yourself at every stage, you know, and do you find your friends do that too, that you all are quite diligent because you're thinking, what am I going to do? Or
I think my friends are a very like mixed group of extremely intelligent women who have different areas of interest. Some of them are much more diligent than I am. Like I definitely worked hard, did my thing, but I have some friends who would do amazing in academia. Like they could keep going in academia and write papers in specific topics they're very passionate about and do amazingly. I have some they're all really intelligent women, and I've been so lucky to meet these people from around the world. Not just women, also men too, but my close girly group is like girls from around the world with such interesting perspectives and niche
That's a band, Girls from Around the World.
Girls from around the world. Let's make it happen.
I like it. Write it down. Girls from around the world. What is the GF from A around the
what about
W?
Global Girls.
Global Girls.
Global girls.
Global Girls. Go on. Set up the band.
Cosmopolitan.
You see, this is what
girls.
You know, life also, you realise, you've won life. It's you realise by this age it's quite short. You have to have fun.
Yeah.
It's so important to do what you love.
Yeah.
To have your values, to do what you love, and then to do something that, you know, branches. I feel so lucky in what I do because I go, and the values are that it brings joy to people, that I feel that it has some community relevance, that it opens people up, everybody laughs together in this divided world. That's important, and I love it. And I just love the purity of purpose of that.
Aww,
you know?
that's so great. Yeah, because
do you know what I mean?
I think for me, that sounds like the perfect scenario of you get to be with people, which I think we are very social people.
Yeah.
You're doing something that's also artistically enriching. Like you are, not only is it art creative, but you're constantly thinking of new ways to push the boat. And
so it's the mental challenge.
It's very stimulating.
It is very challenging, yeah.
And you have this sense of purpose and like, I'm enjoying this, I know what I'm doing. So for me, because I've always been someone that's interested in a lot of things, and also because I did well in secondary school, I kind of felt like I had to really do something that would make me successful. Yeah. I don't really know what that means anymore. And I think also at the start of PPE, meeting a lot of these people who wanted to be big actors and they wanted to do big things and they wanted to make a lot of money. I had to kind of realize in like second year or something, like I never wanted that. That was not that I'm opposed to it, but this has never been my life where I'm fighting to be the top CEO of something where I work fucking 10 hours overtime and I never see my family. That's not what I ever wanted. I don't want to work for a consultancy agency and like be this big. So for me, I also find a lot of solace in the fact that my family is very artsy and creative and freelance. I have this example next to me of people finding their path and finding what they love without having this 5-year plan. Or I know it takes hard work, but it's also nice to know, especially with my mum, with her cooking and how she...
Yeah, because your mum,
she studied
Tracy
fine
Rennie,
art. She studied fine art and then she retrained as a chef in South Africa. Yeah. And she built up her own catering business and she's doing so well now.
She works so hard.
She works fucking hard. But
you know, before I knew your mum, I used to think, it's typical of the sexism in the world that all the top chefs are men when it's women in the world who do most of the cooking. And then it's when I appreciated what it was to be a chef through Tracy talking about it, because she worked at the highest level.
Hard.
I go, it's one of the reasons it's men is because it's hard physical work. And she would come out of the kitchen, her hands all burnt.
Oh, she'll be doing big jobs and come home with a big tissue around her finger.
I mean,
she's also something. My mum, she's always been very strong, and I always admired her about that.
She's got that. She's that
toughie thing.
Her family would call it, this white South Africans, the colonial. They would go, "We're colonials." I mean, you wouldn't say that now, but they're tough.
She's very. Come on, get on with it.
Work. I always remember her father saying, "If you snooze, you lose."
My mum loves is, "You can sleep when you're dead."
Yeah.
You can sleep when you're dead.
Get over it. Your mum would be like, "What's wrong?" And I like that.
I admire her a lot. I remember being in like Musgraves or something back in the day, and she had 2 big bags of coal or something. I don't even remember. It's 2 heavy bags, and the Musgraves guy like, "Do you need a hand there?" And she's like, "No, I've got it." And I was like, "Oh, my mum is so strong." It's a great example, but so she really.
She does amazing.
She does amazing stuff.
She's she worked in Michelin star restaurants, so she does food to the highest level. But she just did a sit down dinner for 80 people of that quality of food.
Yeah.
I mean, the work.
I think it's a crazy job because you have maybe a few weeks of admin emails, and then suddenly it's 1 weekend of go, no sleep, no sleep. So it's a very interesting line of work. But what I love about my mum's story is that she didn't have this plan per se, but she lived life as a young person. She figured out herself. She retrained as a chef, and she made it work herself. So, and same, everyone like you and Dad, Una, Dad, are working in an industry that requires a lot of self-pushing.
Big tranches of it not quite work. The last time, Rosa, I totally ran out of money was 4 years ago. But you just go, get with the program.
And you did more than just get with the program. You rewrote the program. Worked big.
We got 5 left.
Oh,
that went so quickly. I just love catching up with you.
Because it's because I just love getting your perspective on where you're at. There's so many things I want to ask you.
I know we could do a 5-hour podcast, but I wonder if I even answered any of those questions fully.
Is there something you would like to say? I mean, is there something you were going, I really wanted to talk about this? And
honestly, I think we covered a lot of topics I was happy to discuss.
I'm interested in your generation. Do you think the traditional thing of meeting someone and having children is anyway on the horizon? I mean, it was never for me personally, for various reasons. But do you think that your generation or your friends have a sense that your lives are going to be radically different or follow a different model?
It's interesting because I think, so if I look at my friends from my course who are studying this, and also a lot of people outside of my course actually, I do think there is an awareness that it's going to be very different. Now, there are still people who talk about having kids, who talk about this, but I think most of the time someone will pipe up and be like, "Oh, but who knows what's going to happen there." And to be honest, I've been really thinking about this recently because with the whole climate thing, I rationalized it with, okay, but I'm going to raise my kids privileged and educated so they can do something good and blah, blah, blah. And now with how bad inequality is getting, how bad the cost of living is getting, I do actually genuinely wonder if I want to bring people into this world. And I think another thing is my generation of women are very aware of having children with a man. It is a concern of the division of unpaid labor. Because most people, there's not a lot of, I think the stay-at-home mum thing has kind of died out now. It's basically you need a 2-income household.
You need a 2-income,
But what's very common is both parents working, mother does most of the unpaid labor.
It's not it's not always like that.
Of course. But it's more so we see all the extremes on the internet. It's not that we would say, oh, so therefore not having kids with a man. It's more just when you have the internet and you want to be an educated person as well, sometimes you'd like to be the happy fool and not know.
The whole big piece of it all too is we're mammals, and our function on this planet is to reproduce, to continue the strand of our species. But with this confluence of the economic moment we're in, and with AI and everything, do you think, as a species, entering this moment where we unite with technology and we kind of become digitized, and there's going to be this huge division between people who are supplemented internally by technology, you know, with the extreme end of because we already are with the smartphone. Everybody is kind of everything.
Also, raising a child in the age of phone, I would be so scared of giving my kid a phone ever.
But was that a piece that you covered in your course, this idea, are we in a major epoch change where people will literally have electrodes in their heads?
We never looked at this per se, but it's more regulation. If you don't regulate it, this will happen.
Yeah.
And also, if you look at the plastic surgery increase, it sort of feels to me that people are becoming less human. I think that's going to merge with AI in some weird way.
I am finding that. I often think there's big think tanks somewhere where there's Elon Musk type characters actually futurologists projecting this is what it is. I think it's part of what social media has done, is that it's a norm to that you almost become, rather than the sense of yourself as a mammal, that you're an avatar of yourself in the world.
Which is so true. Like, how do I present myself outwardly, rather than like I am a human who is hairy and messy and smelly sometimes, but like in a really raw, beautiful way.
I think the hope is that ultimately, at the end of the day, we are humans.
And humans have always just kind of gotten on with it.
That's the whole thing.
That's what I hope.
Because I remember when you were born, because I was in the hospital before you popped into the world, and I remember I was going through a particular moment of terrible anxiety about everything, and going, they're having a baby. I was so worried, how are they going to manage financially? How are they going to and it's
still going.
It's one of the big joys of my life to see you be born, to see the wonderful child you were, to see the wonderful young adult you've grown into, and to just go, that's life, you know.
But you just fucking get on with it and chug on. I was, like you said, born. I was an Irish recession baby.
Yes.
Then
that's what I'm
COVID
saying,
teenager. Shit will keep happening. Now, the one thing I will say, the sad part is all of this stuff affects the poorest people in the world first. So I just have to enjoy what I fucking have, and that's not to say I don't care about the poorest. I want to do right by the world.
Me too.
We're privileged, and just have to fucking chug on. And humans have been forever just trying to survive.
Yeah. So the biggest thing you can do, number one, is make sure you are functional, that you have your basics taken care of, that you are okay, and then. That's the number one.
Yeah,
it is the
because I can't do anything if I'm.
Secure yourself, and for those close to you, and then think the wider, and control the negativity coming into your lovely
Because worrying is not going to save anybody. Just sitting in my room being sad.
Yeah. So get out there with Tar doing those talky shouty vocals. Rosa Gildea, I'm so excited to see what you're going to do in the world.
Don't get too excited. We'll see. Keep those expectations tempered.